So shifting gears a little bit, given that now we have established the base of what we see as data in motion, how real-time data platforms kind of work in this particular space, how critical freshness of data is, and so forth. Let's talk about what's happening around us right now. Topic of the day, topic of the last several months, I think, is Gen AI. Generative AI applications have been on the rise. I mean, to say that there is an explosion happening around us is probably an understatement, because the kind of or the number of applications that are springing up on a day-to-day basis is mind-boggling. Every day you open up one of these social media sites, or go on to one of the tech news sites, you see that there are a dozen new applications that have come up in a particular area. And these are not just technology applications alone. These are specifically solutions in specific areas as well, pertaining to manufacturing, pertaining to healthcare, retail, and so forth as well. So then it kind of makes you really want to gnaw at it and find out, how does data in motion fit into this movement that's happening around us. And just to set the context for people around us that are listening to this and need to know why we are focusing on Gen AI, if you haven't been paying attention to what's happening around you. The Gen AI market is growing at a pace where it is going to become like a $300 billion market by 2027 and a $1.3 trillion market in 2032, right? That's the kind of growth that we are talking about. And it's expected to skyrocket, meaning like in 2023, we were, talking about software spending on Gen AI, like 8%. And by 2027, we are talking about like 35%, is what is expected in terms of Gen AI software spending. Every company is making an announcement one way or the other, talking about Gen AI-based applications or feature functions that they are incorporating into their existing product stack and stuff. And what we are also seeing is that more than 80% of the enterprises will use or will have used Gen AI applications or would have deployed some kind of Gen AI applications by 2026. We are talking about literally a couple of years from now, right? So 80% of the enterprises would be doing that. So with all that said, there is no denying that there is a significant movement happening all around us, and we need to pay attention to it. And one of the key things that I know is important here is the data that feeds into these Gen AI applications, and I'm kind of like using Gen AI applications as like a very broad term. You could be thinking about LLMs and all that kind of stuff under that, because it's kind of like a broader term, to mention that. But in your view, again, having your experience with like ML and AI and all this spaces that you worked with, how do you look at this Gen AI space that is happening around us? What do you think of it? And particularly in the context of data in motion, what has that got to do with it? Would love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, thanks. As we have agreed, there's a very high value in fresh data, which is typically data in motion, because either it's being created at that point or it's being moved, like even reverse ETL from a data warehouse to an operational store. So when we talk about AI ML, let me kind of classify it into two. Let's talk about predictive AI first, right? So people refer to predictive AI also as traditional AI or simply machine learning, right? So in an autonomous application like fraud detection, as you're processing streams of data, you may be calling a predictive model. In technical terms, that's like you're inferencing a pre-trained model. So that model will typically leverage real-time features. What is a real-time feature? Real-time feature could be basically coming from data in motion, like your location information, your average number of transactions in the last 5 minutes, etc. So you can see how important data in motion is here in this predictive AI in real time. So same is the case when you, let's say, order using Uber Eats. Like based on the fresh data, the app is able to give you estimated time of getting your order, right? The real-time features being considered in, let's say, an Uber Eats application might be traffic patterns. How many orders are there in the pipeline at the restaurant you ordered from, etc., right? Now, that's predictive AI. Now, in the world of generative AI, I have so far seen customers build mostly conversational applications. So even if the use case is centered around data in motion, there is some human intelligence in the loop. For example, the example I gave about the robotic arm, right? Detecting that there is a problem in the pressure sensor and then stopping the train process, right? So in the generative AI case, that robotic arm on the assembly line raises an alarm and sends a notification to the supervisor with a recommendation to stop the assembly line. Now, this recommendation may be based on an LLM plus vector search providing the context. What is the context there? It could be the specs. It could be the manual of the robotic arm, right? Plus additional contextual information like pressure from the nozzles or the average pressure there has been for the last 10 minutes, right? Now the supervisor then interacts with this conversational app because the conversational app could have notified the supervisor that there's a problem. And then it basically, based on that information, decides what to do, right? So in a strict sense, this is really not autonomous decision making yet, right? I think that kind of use cases where you are actually making a decision based on one of the decision points could be an external LLM. I think that will come with trust, as we become more mature. But trust and risks are yet another topic. So that's that.
So I'm sure. Uh, but I love the way how you broke down the existing or traditional or predictive AI models versus like, how you're looking at the generative AI applications and how they are going to evolve as well, particularly the talk about autonomy and all that. Just curious, out of, recent news reading and, I'm thinking out loud as you explain this particular set of use cases. What do you think about the new pricing changes or dynamic pricing that one of the fast food chains announced recently, and they got a little bit of a backfire on that, and they said, well, we are not going to be doing that anymore because people didn't want to be like overcharged because of like peak periods and all that kind of stuff. I mean, dynamic pricing has been around for like quite some time, but is it also something to do with like data in motion, and particularly in the context of like leveraging AI maybe, and like saying here's how you can price your burger because it's peak period, the $6 burger now suddenly it's like $8. Is that an application, or like am I overthinking this?
No, possibly. I mean, I personally don't like the surge pricing from the right companies, but it's an opportunity for a business. I think that's what's going to happen. The opportunity and the value and the new revenue streams are going to drive a lot of these use cases.
Fantastic. So maybe, as a way to like take this conversation to the next level, you spoke about autonomy, and I've been hearing a lot about autonomous applications and the kind of digital agents that are like, being put out there. And people are, naturally fearing their jobs are going to be replaced by these digital agents and all that as well. So there's a lot happening on the autonomy side. Chatbots are like, replacing a lot of the call centers. There are companies that have like laid off like, plenty of people because they are, being done by like these chatbots now and so forth. Um, is there like a broader set of like meaningful applications in the autonomy side, where we could potentially see a lot more happening beyond just like the traditional chatbots that we're looking at right now, where you see Gen AI can be even more value adding into how we do things today, so that we can start looking at uh, the forest for the trees, like the bigger picture, and maybe like doing better things with Gen AI.
Yeah, I mean, I think healthcare, legal, I mean, there's so much information being created every day. That the professionals. So in healthcare, it is the physician. They are not able to keep up with the new medical research which is coming about. So I think things like generative AI will help them augment their work and make them more productive. So I think more than taking away jobs, I feel that people will become more productive, right? Because they will have a conversational kind of buddy where they can actually interact with and figure out how that person could actually help them, right? Be more productive. So I think that's how I look at it.
Fantastic. On that note, you are obviously a product leader, an evangelist, you're very vocal, you have been in this space for quite a long time. How do you see this technology vendor landscape changing? As you look at so many people doing so many different things, everybody wants to, like, say, Gen AI and all that. Are there any specific trends that you want to highlight? Anything that, we should say, Manish already called this out on our episode like a year from now, and we should take pride in?
Yeah, only if I knew the future, but
We all wish we had an 8 ball. I know that.
yeah. I think because, I've been building data platforms for many, many years, I think I see this coming that the existing data platform need to address these new, I'll call them Gen AI workloads, right? So I'm sure people will build things which will require things like vector search. So if you already have a data platform, they would actually demand those kind of capabilities in their data platform. So if you're a database, vector search would be, table stakes. Now, having said that, I still see big gaps in the use of predictive AI in applications. I've seen so many high value use cases where real-time machine learning is being used. But overall, that percentage is still very small. I still see a lot of batch pipelines and the real-time pipelines, the serving pipelines are different, and these need to come together. And the whole area of ML ops, you train your model somewhere else, and then you actually have this online inferencing going on, but those pipelines are different. So those, I think, still need a lot of work. I also see a big opportunity in app platforms to close the skills gap. Vendors need to help with simple build of applications. If there is a product which can help orchestrate workflows, allowing more use of fresh data, more low code tools, support for things like domain specific language or declarative means, etc., of processing the data, and data might be coming from unbounded data streams. I recently saw an amazing developer experience from a company called Vantic. They were showing how easy it is to actually help their customers integrate LLMs with data in motion. So those kind of orchestration tools are going to be important because there is a skills gap. Not every company has developers who can wire these systems together to build your application. And like you said, I think, Dinesh, that there's also this shift in mindset required because, data doesn't have to come to rest for processing to happen. We have to be doing certain things because then that's what software solutions were at that time. But now things have changed, right? Now they do help you process data in motion. And of course, the big trend we talked about was providing governance around AI in general. Specifically, if you're going to have enterprise apps making active decisions based on high value data in motion, with some parts of the application potentially tapping into an external LLM. So the whole thing around AI observability for building trust as you start making autonomous decisions using Gen AI will be very, very important.
Wow. Thank you, Manish. I think that requires a blog post by itself. I think there are like several points that made absolute sense to me. Particularly as I've been involved in the space for the last several years, I've seen how much attention is being paid to data in motion in the last several years compared to where I was in the field a few years ago, where there were only like a few major players and so forth. But now the kind of applications that have come up, as you said in your explanation about how relevant data in motion is today in the context of the applications that we are building pertaining to Gen AI and maybe the low code, no code kind of declarative application that we are building. It makes perfect sense. I think there has been insane growth of vendors and offerings in this particular context. And we are just about to get into an even more complex, sophisticated world with more excitement coming our way as technologists. I think we are going to be super thrilled about it. So thank you for joining us on this episode. I really appreciate your insights. We totally loved having you on this episode. Maybe at some future point, we'll bring you back in and discuss what you predicted and how things are going and all that as well. I think that might be a good way to do this too. But I wish you wonderful success with your career, and look forward to seeing more insights from you in the tech world. Thank you, Manish.
Yeah, thank you, Dinesh.